Good morning. My name is Jill Thompson, and I use she, her pronouns. I have the honor of being your worship associate this morning. Please take a moment to put your mind, spirit, and cell phones in worship mode. We welcome everyone here and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, with a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. We hope you stay after the service for coffee in the fellowship hall. Let's take a second to stand up and connect with everyone watching at home. For those of you online who wish to share your joys and concerns, please put them in the chat in the next 15 minutes. We acknowledge that our church resides on the traditional lands of the Tutelo and Monacan nations and was later farmed and developed through slave labor. We recognize and respect the ongoing connection to this land by generations of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. May our gratitude and fellowship here echo and honor that rich history. Our previous minister is the Reverend Walter LaFleur, who stepped away to be on medical leave. In the interim, the Reverend Kirk Balin has taken up the reins, and today will be his last time in the pulpit. Our new minister, the Reverend Jen Raffensberger, will be in the pulpit for the first time on August 18th, and we eagerly await her arrival here. In a related note, I have an update on the Reverend Walter LaFleur from his wife Yvonne's Caring Bridge site. On Wednesday, she posted, "Walter is just shy of or entering the active phase of dying. No one knows how long he has. The nurse has said that if he wasn't verbal, she would definitely list him as active, hours to days to a week left. She believes he might be one of those people who actually speaks or has some alertness until he dies. There will be no more shares from me until he is gone. Please continue all your prayers and energy and good thoughts." I've since learned that his condition continues to deteriorate, so please keep them in our hearts. We'll have a moment of silence as we ring the bell for them. Please join me in reciting our words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness or overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. And now our covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So I had the pleasure of going to the Unitarian Universalist Musicians Conference in Albuquerque last week, and there were lots of musicians and ministers and just congregants, and so we learned a lot of new songs. So one of those I'm going to share with you today, and the choir knows it but you'll be able to sing along easily. So let's all rise as we're able. It requires shaky egg, which is not my instrument of choice, but that's okay. A little higher. Okay. So you can just repeat after me, and they'll help you. Okay. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. We're going to repeat that. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. New thing here. Aye, 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 aye. That part's easy. Aye, 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 aye. Let's do that one more time. Aye, 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 aye. You can groove a little if you want. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Aye, here we go. Aye, 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 aye. Now we're going to do it again, and you can pick a part. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Aye, 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 aye. Let's aye again. Aye, 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 aye,
Our opening words today are, "It is Good to Be Together" by Allison Waller. With thankful hearts, we have come together this morning to celebrate the bounty of the day, to bask in the warmth of this community, to share with friends the tides of our lives, to entertain perennially our hopes for a better future. We join together this morning, as always, to resist injustice and inequality wherever they may be found. Our hearts are touched by the human need we feel around us, whether far away or within the reach of our hand. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived: in questioning and in conversation, in compassion and in service, in gratitude and in joy, in companionship and in love. It is good to be together with you this morning. And our chalice lighting is by Nick Wilburn. We light our chalice this morning in the spirit of gratitude, thankful for years of ministerial service to this church, for celebrations of life and death, dedications and communions, for leading worship, grounding our congregation in spiritual practice, helping us navigate the wonders and stresses of this world, and make sense of good times and bad. Reverend Kirk, thank you for being a leader, a comforter, and a friend. Thank you for being our minister.
Hello.
My name is Jessie McEwen. I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here, and I want to invite up all folks who are young at heart, students, maybe even teachers. Come on up, because today is a very special day. Today we are blessing your backpacks or school bags or kitchen tables, depending on where you learn and how you learn. And we have up here, our theme, come on up, y'all. Our theme this year is Our Words Hold All the Power of the Universe. And along those lines, you guys have bags full of words. Now, it's not sight words, it's not flashcards, it's letters that all these people out here have written for you for the school year. And there's also some treats in there for the teachers too. Yeah, there's some treats in your bag. So after the service, you guys are invited to come up and grab a bag. If you're coming upstairs with us after the children's message, we will make sure that we make a parade down here to grab one of these bags. And on your bag is a button that has our theme this year. But I am not going to keep talking because I'm going to introduce my friend, Kay, who's going to come up here, and she has a whole lot of really awesome words for you guys.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? Okay. My name is Kay, and I'm really happy to be here with you. I was a teacher for a lot of years. I climbed, if I think of every school year as a mountain, I climbed a lot of mountains. And now I don't need a bag anymore. I'll let you have them all. And so if we think of a school year as a mountain, you've got to get ready to climb the mountain, right? So you need things with you to climb your mountain. How many of you have climbed a mountain before? Climbed a mountain? What's wonderful about climbing a mountain? What do you like best? Fresh air. Anything else? Huh? What? Recess and candy. I always bring treats with me when I climb a mountain, so I get it. Anybody else? Nature. How about waterfalls? Aren't they wonderful? Animals, flowers, caves, lots of wonderful things. Sometimes there are things, though, that we have to be careful with. There are challenges like what? Like boulders, right? We have to climb over boulders or ravines or things like that. So that's why we need our backpack with us. And how many of you have your backpack from last year? Have your backpack from last year? Okay. But you remember your backpack from last year, right? So let's imagine you haven't taken anything out of your last year's backpack. And I want you to close your eyes, if you can, if you are willing to. Close your eyes and imagine taking everything out of your backpack from last year. Cleaning the whole thing out. Good job. Tell me what was in your backpack. What's one thing that was in your backpack last year? Your lunch. It's probably not any good anymore. I wouldn't eat it. Anybody else? Did you have like books in there? Did you have like electronics in there? Yeah? Your calculator? They still, you what? The quiz you failed? You hung on to that, huh? A bad we do tend to hang on to our failures, don't we? So in that backpack, you may not have realized you were carrying it, but you were carrying some good things too, right? You were carrying some grades you got that you really liked, that showed what you were capable of, that said you're strong, or you learned something, you're persistent, you made a friend. All of those things were in your backpack, right? You remember that from last year, don't you? Yeah? How about, but maybe there were some things in your backpack you didn't really like too much, right? There were some things like maybe a fight you had with a friend, or maybe a name somebody called you, or worse yet, a name you called yourself, or a way you felt like you just didn't fit in, you weren't enough, you know? And so I want you to put those in two piles, the things that are really good and the things that you don't really want to have to carry them this next year because they're kind of heavy, yeah? Okay. The things that you really like, they weigh like feathers. you put them in your new backpack. You're going to take them with you. The things that showed how courageous you are, how strong you are, how capable you are, you put those in your new backpack. And then the other things, you know what they are? I'm going to give you each one of these. You want to pass these around? Students get first priority. I know teachers carry a lot of rocks too, but I only have 10. Can you give that one to the little girl behind you? Exactly 10. Can you help me with this? Here, I'll give you the bag. Kevin, you just give it to them. And then we have markers here, don't we? Yeah, let's give everybody a marker. Everybody gets a marker and a rock. And on your rock, with your marker, just write down one thing that you remember from last year that you just don't want to have happen again. It might have been a fight. It might have been a name. It might have been a just something that you just don't want to repeat. Can you think of something that you can write down? I know I've said things to myself that are horrible. You know, I didn't even wait for other people to call me names. I called myself names before they even got to it. I don't know if you've done that, but I have. And if it doesn't come to you right now, you can take it with you. You know what? So now you don't want to carry these up the mountain, do you? I mean, these are going to make your backpack really heavy. You don't want to carry these up the mountain, so what are you going to do with them? Throw them off a cliff. That's a better plan than what some people do. Some people, when they have, like, say they have a rock that says idiot on it, because they kind of feel like an idiot, and so they wrote idiot on their rock, and they don't want that in their backpack, so they throw it at you. Now, you have a choice. You can pick up that rock and put it in your backpack, but that'll make your backpack really heavy. And every time you think that about yourself, your rock will get bigger. It'll turn into a boulder. It'll get really, really heavy. So you don't want to do that. What else can you do with your boulder? Or your rock, I mean. Put it in the garden. You could do that. But you know what I would do first? I would take it to, if it's still, a rock is still there from last year, I would take it to a trusted adult and I would tell them why that rock is heavy for you. What happened that made that rock? So, because when you share a rock, it's a lot lighter. And sometimes even you find a lesson in it that turns it into a feather. It's kind of magical. But you really need help doing that. It's very hard to do it by yourself, to carry that by yourself. So every time this year, when you're thinking about your new backpack and things happen to you, think about, is this a rock I want to put in my backpack? Is this a feather I want to put in my backpack? Is this something I want to talk to somebody else while I make the decision about what to do with it? Okay? So what grade are you going into? 4th grade. Okay, well, we're not going to exactly climb Zane's mountain. Zane's path is Zane's path up the mountain. But how many of you have climbed to the top of that mountain, the 4th grade mountain? You have made it to the top of the 4th grade mountain. Raise your hand if you have made it to the top of the 4th grade mountain. Excellent, you have done that. What grade are you going into? 6th grade. How many made it to the top of the 6th grade mountain? What grade are you going into? Junior year of high school. But how many made it to the top of the junior year of high school? Look at all of that. So it's your path, but if you get lost, if you need help for a while carrying your backpack, know that all these people haven't been on your path, but they've been on your mountain. They know how to help. You're not on your own. We have your back. Good luck this year. And I look forward to you getting to the top and planting your flag and saying, I made it. So good luck. Thank you.
Our reading today is called Hold Fast to Summer by Ben Sewell. Hold fast to summer. Enjoy with heightened appreciation these still warm days. Create more memories, take more pictures. Enjoy a bit of denial. Suck all the summer sweetness out of your sun-warmed garden tomatoes. Smile at someone. Squeeze a hand. Put up some jam or pickles. We store these things up as we approach the uncertain seasons, and our summer companions will be our winter support and sustenance. In celebration of the changing seasons, we gather together in community.
Some of you may remember part of this from a service I gave a couple months ago. The Hawaiian translation for the English word love is aloha. So the Hawaiian word aloha is often translated as I love you, or nothing more than hello or goodbye. Like many Hawaiian words, aloha is derived from a combination of other words and has more than one interpretation. When broken down, the literal translation of alo is presence, and ha means breath. So aloha connotes the presence of breath or the breath of life. My favorite transliteration is the breath that is shared between you and me. Hawaiians today often encourage everyone to live aloha as an essence of being, love, peace, compassion, and a mutual understanding of respect. Aloha means living in harmony with the people and the land around you with mercy, sympathy, grace, and kindness. When greeting another person with aloha, there is mutual regard and affection. There is warmth in caring for the other with no obligation to receive anything in return.
Good morning, everyone. Aloha. Thank you. First of all, I thank you to the choir and Carrie for the music this morning. It's always a delight. Betsy's on the sound, James is on the camera, and to all those who helped out with ushering and alike this morning, thank you very much. It's warm being in the spotlight. Let's just take a moment to be quiet and take 3 deep breaths, if we would. This is weird. But I'm not using the word weird here, as it has suddenly entered into the U.S. presidential campaign. In fact, prior to this political role of the word, as I was contemplating the nature of this day, the word weird immediately came up. Why? Well, my understanding of the word weird here is something that is very much out of the norm, unplanned, unexpected, even uncomfortable, being the center of attention, heartwarming, and very humbling, all at once in my ministerial story. That's why this is weird for me. Excuse me. It gets weirder. That's why this is weird for me, and for me, it's the best kind of weird that weird can be. So I apologize in advance. I'm going to be talking about me, which is weird. And I'm probably going to talk maybe too long. When I was asked to fill in as the interim contract minister following Reverend Walter's need for medical reasons to step back as the settled minister of UUCR, and after consulting with my wife, Robin, I said yes, it would be an honor to help where I could. As I joked with some of you, having had a long time connection with UUCR, I already knew where most of the light switches were. I also, of course, was already familiar with a number of people in this community, as well as being familiar with the story of UUCR and its relationship with the Roanoke Valley. But I would not have said yes if I thought I would be stepping into a community where there was conflict or unhealthy leadership. Unless folks were really good at hiding it from me, I experienced the opposite. I was very fortunate, blessed even, to work with dedicated, informed, and experienced staff, board and committee leadership who served in their roles with one thing in mind: the health and welfare of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke community. It was relatively easy for me to plug into what and where I was needed to contribute to this commitment. And for me, unbeknownst to me when I said yes, and since I have served these past few months with you, this stint as interim contract minister for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke was also something that I very much needed. So, because this morning is about me, weird, bear with me as I put my ministry in context for you. I was raised in the Episcopal tradition. Firstly, I attended a church in Denver, Colorado when I was little. And then when my family moved, we moved to Findlay, Ohio. In the late 50s and 60s, we stayed there. And my mom took us 4 kids to the Episcopal church where I was confirmed, etc. I was even an acolyte. And I even in 1969 graduated from an Episcopal high school, St. Albans in D.C. After graduating, I swore to myself that I would never have anything to do with organized religion again. My dad, however, when we lived in Findlay, did not attend church with us because he said he was, you got it, a Unitarian. And since there was not a Unitarian church in town, he played golf instead. Little did I know that a seed had been planted. When we left Findlay in 1963, my world began to expand. We moved to Bethesda, Maryland, just outside D.C. And in only the 1 year we lived in being part of the D.C. area, I was suddenly exposed to greater diversity of people and cultures. Among other things, I recall visiting the Ahmadiyya Mosque on Massachusetts Avenue, leaving a lasting and influential memory on me as my life unfolded. And I was also in the D.C. area when JFK was assassinated. After a year in the D.C. area, Marathon Oil moved us to Geneva, Switzerland, where I attended the International School of Geneva, Ecolant. Talk about the horizons of my world expanding. The nationalities and ethnicities of the student body were representative of at least 5 continents, if not all 7. And all of this was happening in the most international city of the world at the time. But I was also an American, and with my perhaps arrogant perspective, I thought I needed to graduate from a good American high school if I wanted to get into a good law school. Please note Bill Hackworth, because I wanted to be a lawyer. So after 2 years at Ecolant, I applied to St. Albans in D.C. and got in as a boarder. But I had to repeat 3rd form, 9th grade, because of the sequence of my math courses in Geneva, or so I was told. I was a well-behaved student the first year, even though coming from Europe in 1966, I initially had some style conflicts with the school, i.e. bell-bottoms and long hair, which were already pretty common in Europe at the time. But this isn't what would set me at odds with the school authorities for the next 2 years. It was my becoming more, quote, counterculture in my words and deeds in the school that caused tension. When I chose to quit the junior varsity football team because our coach had us chant in a huddle, blood, blood, kill, kill, the headmaster called me into his office to tell me, Ballin, you're walking a knife's edge, because I quit football. He literally thought football was God's sport. But I was also skipping out on the required morning chapel and the Washington Cathedral services on Sunday morning. But 2 significant things happened while I was at St. Albans that are particularly relevant to my ministry. One was this class called Sacred Studies. That was an overview of Western philosophy, presuming a tie to Christianity. But in this class, I learned about existentialism and about some diverse takes on Christianity. Contrary to its intentions, the class broke me out of established ways of understanding religion and freed me up to ask questions about God, creation, life, and death, and being human. The other thing was Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Some of you might know that St. Albans sits on the highest point in the D.C. area. So being a boarder on the top floor of the school, I and other boarders could look out and see the glow from the part of D.C. burning as a result of the angry, pain-filled riots following King's assassination. That night, I recall with a couple of other boarders looking out of a window on the front area of the school, which is part of the National Cathedral Close, and National Guardsmen were patrolling. One of us made a sound, and a handful of jittery guards, rifles in hand, suddenly turned towards our windows. We hit the floor. No shots, fortunately, were fired. But part of my compartmentalized view of the world was shattered that night. The reality of racial and social injustice and of dehumanizing poverty here in the United States really broke through to me. So I left St. Albans a profoundly changed person. The next 8 years, among many things, included, just after high school graduation, the loss of a younger, very dear St. Albans friend who was like a younger brother to me. And then I did a 2-year stint at Colorado College, the exploration of mind-altering experiences, with some not being very smart. Hitchhiking, living 6 months near Sonoma, California, becoming macrobiotic, being lured back to rural Augusta County, living mostly in relative solitude and beginning to read about world religions, including the entire Bible, and being profoundly intrigued by the character of Jesus. It didn't matter to me whether he lived or not. His ministry, I thought, was remarkable, thereby setting an ideal of what ministry could be. I attended a summer UVA course on anthropology, which solidified my commitment to trying to view humanity as a whole and trying to understand the origins of culture within the context of evolutionary theory. So I returned to Colorado College and got a BA in anthropology, which included a month visit in India. This was not in my sermon. Which included a month visit in India and a bit in Bangladesh. So I moved back to Virginia. I tried to homestead in Rockbridge County, went to Kuwait to try to make enough money to buy a parcel of land in Rockbridge County, a very long story. Traveled to Israel, Syria, Palestinian refugee camps, and Cyprus. Then I went to UVA to get a master's in anthropology, but decided I didn't want to do the academic world as a profession. And I went to India again. The complex cultural melange of India fascinated and inspired me. So I came home and said to myself, now what? I contemplated from where my life had come and what had interested and motivated me. I concluded that given my desire to assist others where I could, and my desire to come to an understanding of what it means to be human, and to put that understanding into a scientific evolutionary context for the betterment of humanity, that I was being called to the ministry. But then at first it was like being all dressed up with nowhere to go. I certainly couldn't practice my version, my understanding of ministry within the context of what society seemed to define as ministry. That kind of ministry under some established theological, doctrinal, dictating, dogmatic structure, no matter how benevolent that structure presumed itself to be. However, and meanwhile, my dad had been suggesting, you guessed it, that I should check out the Unitarians. As some of you know, there are 3 divinity theological schools that offer programs specifically designed to educate UU ministers. With their schools have specific programs and curriculum for that purpose. Those are Starr King in California, named after the first senator of California, who was also a Unitarian minister. There's Meadville Lombard in Chicago, the merger of a Unitarian theological school, Meadville, and Lombard, a Universalist theological school. And Harvard Divinity, essentially the first college of Harvard University and associated with the early Unitarians. I applied to Starr King and Harvard and got accepted at both. But even though I knew Harvard would be more academic than Starr King in 1980, I decided to attend Harvard Divinity because it was near the mothership, the UUA, because I didn't know much about Unitarian Universalism, and the Boston area was steeped in the inspiring stories of Unitarianism and Universalism. At Harvard Divinity School and the adjacent Comparative Religion Department, among many topics, I explored the New and Old Testaments, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, and Hinduism. But three very influential and awareness-expanding ministry experiences for me were, one, my UU-required student ministry at Fallen Community Church in East Lexington, Massachusetts, an octagonal church, and Ralph Waldo Emerson's last pulpit. But most significantly, I was supervised by the Reverend Polly Guile, one of the very few women ministers in the denomination at the time, a wonderful mentor and friend for me, and I was ordained there. The second experience was during my third and final year under Harvey Cox, a name that some of you might recognize. He wrote a book called The Secular City. Dr. Cox oversaw my required final project. I chose to research and visit the American Muslim mission community in Roxbury, Boston. A predominantly African-American Muslim community, I was honored and humbled doing this person-to-person research. And the third thing was the Master of Divinity requirement to do a summer of clinical pastoral education. This was essentially getting some exposure to and training in being a chaplain in a health facility. I chose to work in a clinic in Danvers, Massachusetts. The home was called for severely mentally retarded adolescent boys. Tommy, a boy who would bite himself consistently and say, "That hurts." And Ralph, an almost entirely nonverbal boy who often made rude gestures, stick out in my memory. It was my most significant divinity school experience. So when I left Harvard Divinity, my first settled ministry was in Meadville, Pennsylvania, a town of 16,000 people. It's the place where the original Unitarian Theological School was started by a Congregationalist named Haida Cooper, who also started the first Congregational Church of Meadville, which later became the Unitarian Church of Meadville, which is celebrating 200 years in 2025. I served there for 3 years. The place was a beacon of religious liberalism in a very conservative area, and thereby had a pretty eclectic membership, to say the least. Mike McGee, who was the first called minister in Roanoke, had also gone on to serve in Meadville. He accuses me of pursuing him in reverse. I left Meadville because Alice's and my son Alexander had been diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 2. So we felt the need to get out of the cold and lake effect snow of Lake Erie. So I learned that the Roanoke congregation had become open and we wanted to get back to Virginia. I applied, and it was the only place to which I applied. And the search committee, which consisted of Bill Hackworth, who's with us this morning, was the ringmaster trying to keep the independent minds in accord. Sally Garber, who is, we know, heads up the caring committee. Mark Nevin, who is with us this morning, visiting right there. Jan Dowling, who actually lives in Arizona now, who contacted me a week or so ago. And then Frosty Landon, who unfortunately and sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But he, with Barbara Landon, significantly contributed to the life, growth, and stability of this community, and they're the ones who donated the window that's out in the foyer. So I lucked out with this search committee, and that fact that 4 with whom I still have ongoing contact is really, really wonderful to me. The congregation called me, and then in March of 1987, my relationship with UUCR began. Between '87 and 1999, this community supported me, questioned me, encouraged me, challenged me, and put up with me, especially as I went through marital and familial upheavals and changes. Mostly, I truly valued what was and still is most important to me as a UU preacher: freedom of the pulpit. In all my different manifestations of ministry, I was never told what I had to preach. I've certainly been told by individuals something about my sermons, including being boring, but I was never bound to some kind of ecclesiastical or theological agenda. I have always been able to speak my conscience. And to force some of you to wade through ankle-deep confetti after the first holy celebration. How many of you were here then? Okay, yes. Took a while to clean that up. But we did it again, but not with as much confetti. And the 7 Unitarian Universalist principles became reoccurring guiding signposts for me, never saying I had arrived, but always showing me the way to a more healthy world. And I got to spend my one sabbatical in Bangkok, where my brother and sister-in-law lived, where I got caught in the middle of a democracy demonstration. I ended up spending a great deal of time indoors, but it was, there again, eye-opening. But then, after some conflict around church leadership and around my status as the settled minister, I chose to resign so that I wasn't in the way of what the congregation needed to do to sort itself out. At least that's how I saw it. Because my kids lived here, I chose not to leave Roanoke, and I assumed I could pick up a new job locally. But the resume of a minister doesn't open many doors, as I expected it might. So for a couple of years, I did some unemployment, some weekend and weeknights part-time chaplaincy at Carilion Emergency Trauma Unit, and some substitute teaching. Wow to that. Some private counseling services until I was hired as quarter-time and half-time UU minister in Lynchburg while I still lived in Roanoke. I eventually took on a second job as full-time executive director of NCCJ, the National Conference for Community and Justice, dedicated to combating racism, bigotry, fostering interfaith dialogue, as well as multicultural experiences. And of course, Local Colors has its origins in the National Conference of Community and Justice. When doing both jobs became too much with the travel, church work, and NCCJ programming, I resigned from Lynchburg and continued full-time with NCCJ. When NCCJ was hit hard by the state of the economy in the early 2000s, the Roanoke NCCJ office closed. I was back to unemployment and job searching. But in 2005, I started as the program coordinator for Agribility Virginia, a federal grant-funded program co-led by Virginia Tech and Easter Seals Virginia. We assisted farmers and ranchers throughout the state that had disabilities. The classified ad for the job was a bit confusing. I was the only one who seriously applied for the job, so I got it. So again, though, for me, it was a type of ministry. And I worked for Agribility for 16 years, and then for 2 years, I was part-time fund development director with Camp Easter Seals in Craig County. Meanwhile, I was doing the occasional wedding or memorial service, and I was occasionally in a UU pulpit in Harrisonburg, Lynchburg, Waynesboro, Roanoke, and other UU pulpits, including Wyoming, Pennsylvania, twice via Zoom during COVID. And back after Reverend Audette moved on from here, and before Reverend Dave came on as the interim minister, I was hired here for a year to provide pastoral outreach. And of course, in 2017, I was recognized by the UUCR membership as Minister Emeritus, a very welcomed honor and a position I will continue to serve in. I tell you all of this about my past and my ministry, as boring or as entertaining as it might be, because a constant for me these past 37 years has been my connection to this congregation. Even when there were challenges, major distractions, and reasons to dissolve these connections persisted. So even though my consideration in April to take on the role of interim contract minister at UCCR was seeing how I could help out and even get paid for it, it has been an experience of profound benefits for me in ways I didn't anticipate. It's as if this wasn't just my stepping into being a temporary help to the community. It was truly and deeply needed for me. It has been a culmination of my ministry in unanticipated ways. It has been a potent and empowering coming-of-age chapter in my ministerial story. And if I might be a bit presumptuous, so with my apologies, but this UU community has also witnessed a coming-of-age since COVID. There is a strengthened fabric of identity, of commitment, of importance, of purpose here that overrides individual egos and agendas, that seeks to weave a beloved community while knowing that such community is a part of a necessary contribution to the salvation of life on this planet and the essential role of humanity in fostering that salvation. Choosing to be guided by the principles and values of Unitarian Universalism in service to love is a healthy way to live our lives. We could be choosing much worse. So stick to it. Keep making sure that this community serves not only the welfare of all who seek community here, but that this community continues to serve the welfare of the communities in which we live, locally and globally. Remember that as Reverend Jen steps into her role as the minister, it is the support and commitment of each of us to Jen's service and to each of our ideals of UU ministry that defines the ministry of this community. The only requisite is being human and wanting to foster a healthy community. So yes, this is weird, why I titled this Aloha Gratitude. For deep at the center of this weirdness for me is gratitude. Not only for the past few months and being allowed to enter into your lives, but for the past 37 years of my association with UUCR. And this gratitude is wrapped in aloha, as Bill shared with us, the breath that is shared between you and me. I have consciously and unconsciously shared my breathing with UUCR for 37 years. And so I do say thank you and aloha.
The work of our church requires the time, talent, and treasure of so many people. As we collect today's offering, know that your generous gifts will go towards furthering the missions of our church. We are so grateful for your support in making the world a better place. Aloha.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Linda Wood, here representing the Caring Committee. And one of the things that Caring Committee does to covenant with this congregation is that we present joys and concerns that you want to share with everybody as a whole on Sunday mornings. If you have things that you want to share on Sunday morning, what you can do is call the church office or tell a member of the Caring Committee or write it in the Lifelines book, which is on the altar before church and in the little alcove next to the name tags during the week. So into this sacred space we bring. From Bonnie Nelson, we have good news and bad news. It's good because I need knee surgery. It's bad because I need knee surgery. Her surgery will be on September the 4th, and she'll be limpingly seeing you for a while. More good news from Bonnie is that while recuperating, Teresa is helping her with Living the Questions, and the next book to discuss is The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, Pulitzer Prize winner. Tim Mayhew is home, recovering from a total knee replacement. So that's a concern, and you can relate to that, huh, Bonnie? So there are two sad pieces of news this morning. Barbara Horton's dear friend, June Aldor, has passed away. Barbara had asked us to keep her in our hearts a few weeks ago. She was Barbara's longtime friend and traveling companion, so she'll be greatly missed. And also, we lost last weekend Bill Baker. Do you remember Bill from Laughter Yoga? He was a really, really delightful man, and I'm sure a lot of us participated in the laughter workshops that he did with Kyle Edgell. I was thinking that I have kind of a joy/concern that many people in this congregation share, I know. It's kind of a bittersweet thing. As a retired teacher, this time of year, I always feel sad because I loved teaching. and joyous because I don't have to go back to the classroom. So raise your hand if you're a retired teacher. I knew there was some out there. Yeah, I knew you were there. So a lot of us have things in our hearts that we don't want to share with the group as a whole, but are on our minds and hearts today. So if you'd like to come up at this time and light a candle, may the warmth of that candle give you peace. Please use both sides of the altar.
Let's take a moment to quiet our minds a bit and be aware of our breathing. Open our hearts to those that we know that need our love and attention, knowing that we have that power, that ability to transform lives through our love. Let us sit for a moment in quiet reflection, prayer, and meditation. May I who live be true unto my being. One in my thoughts, my words, and every deed. I was born free, an ever-changing river is what I am, and neighbor, so are you. We have the power through laughter, love, and tears to face all fears and live forever free. Amen.
I have a few announcements. The first one, unfortunately, got left out of the order of service. So I'd like to let you know that registration for the Understanding Gender Identity Workshop being held September 8th is now live. Please make sure you sign up before September 5th to get lunch. Please see Leah Whitney or Cindy Lawler after the service. There's Cindy, for the URL and questions. We have some announcements in the order of service about registering for Life and Faith Development and also for the Popcorn Theology movie nights. And Dotsie Clifton passed out a survey about public radio. There's Dotsie, and she will be by the door to collect them if you don't mind on your way out. And lastly, if you would like to write a note for our Reverend Kirk, there are cards in the lobby in a basket, and you may do so.
Our closing hymn is from the Teal hymnal, which we don't have for you, but the words are on the screen. It's called We Give Thanks.
By taking time to turn around to everybody that's around us and say aloha, because that's what this is all about. And thank you, Bill, for sharing that. Aloha. Thank you, Jill.